said black men get rich.
Give me a testing on y'all mics real quick. That's gonna hear us.
Testing. You hear us?
This dumbing down stuff because y'all ain't making enough money. It's for the birds.
Right. I'm so tired of hearing about that.
And your Zoom people tell me to testing.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mistress. She's over there bouncing.
Testing.
Don't ever talk like that again.
Why? I'm trying to be a nice individual.
All right, I'll be quiet. Sipping my drink.
Testing.
What they said.
Slightly cut off. Is that on our end or her end?
Yes.
A beautiful body.
Titty meat.
Can you hear me any better now?
I can see you better. Yeah.
Yeah, your top was cut off.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
Do my music. And you better have it this time.
Ooh. I see, man.
Wait a minute.
Right. Wait, no. Not y'all.
You see her ears perked up
really
on
need to
that
be
one.
talking about.
Keep it in your pants, Erica.
Oh, it's already down.
Y'all ready to ride? Y'all ready to ride?
Ever wonder what therapists talk about after work? Well, the answer might surprise you. We talk about the same things you guys talk about, from WAP to woke, from love to friendships. Welcome to The Tea. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Snyder, and here with me is my co-host and colleague, Kenise Eaton. We are the therapists at Minds Empowered Counseling in Chicago, but once a week we kick back and we vent, and we want you guys to join us. So go grab a glass of your favorite drink, make sure it's a little strong, and come and rock with us for the next hour.
Y'all ready to ride? Y'all ready to ride?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Tea. We are actually doing a part 2. We did it a couple weeks ago where we kind of did an intro to Bdsm, and I swear I think my inbox was flooded with questions around how do I spice up my room. This inbox wasn't flooded. How do I spice it up? How do I introduce it to my mate? How do I, what is a kink? Like, can we have more information? Like, how do I learn what I like? That was a big one. Someone texted me today, how do I be a dominatrix? Okay.
Oh, okay, fancy. She just gonna jump all the way in. All right.
So,
okay.
Today, it only made sense to bring my mistress, Mistress Erica, Urban Kinkster. She's actually tagged on my page, and so I do want you guys to follow her too and her brand, and I'll let her tell you about herself. And actually today we brought her mentor, Sir Matthias Black, will also be joining us. I brought him on because I really also wanted a male perspective. I think men sometimes can just struggle to hear a powerful woman, even if she's right. So it kind of just made sense to bring on, to keep it even and to make sure like y'all can receive this information. I wanted to have a male presence. And so joining us now, we have Mistress Urban Kinkster, and we have Sir Matthias Black, two dominants. And I will just quickly allow them to introduce themselves, but they are both dominants in the world of BDSM, and I'll give them both a second to talk about themselves. Go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Urban.
Thank you, sir. My name is Mistress Urban Kinkster, and I am, this is my part two, so I'm very excited that you guys found the last part to be informational. I can be found on urbankinkster.com, but I am known as a sadistic sadistic mommy dominant and disciplinarian and educator. I travel and educate and demo and try and, spread the good word of BDSM and Kink.
So real quick, and actually, sir, go on ahead and you also can real quick introduce yourself, because I have a question that I'm gonna help kind of move us in a good direction tonight.
No worries. All right, so I am Sir Matthias Black. I have been in the realm of BDSM as a dominant for about 15 some odd years. I hate labels, but I would be categorized as a gentleman sadist, as well as somewhat of a daddy dom and disciplinarian. Other than that, that's about it.
Okay, so what is a sadist? Let's kind of jump in. I'm gonna let you guys. And it plays into actually the title of BDSM. Sadomasochism is directly in the word. So each of you do identify as a dominant, and I want you both to speak to what's a dominant and what's a sadist. Let's throw those two terms back out there.
Well, thank you, sir. So we identify as sadists, and sadists are individuals who derive pleasure from inflicting pain. Safely, of course, but inflicting pain nonetheless. Typically, our matching puzzle piece would be a masochist. And to talk about dominance, it's really about exuding a knack for leadership and wanting to lead, guide, and see other people around you grow. Just really owning that space and really not wavering from it. I'm Kink 24/7, and it's just more of a fitting role for me.
So I heard you each refer to a gender role, one saying mommy, and sir, I heard you say gentleman or daddy. Can we talk about how mommy and daddy kind of comes out in the realm of BDSM?
Sir Black.
Thank you, mistress. Well, as far as the daddy concept is concerned, it's, I guess, would be more of a guiding hand towards our submissives or little ones or whatever the case may be as far as that. It's more of a nurturing type deal as opposed to perhaps what you see or hear on film and television where you have someone clad in leather with a cattle prod just lording over somebody, telling them to get to work, or what the case may be. Again, our aspect is more of a guiding and nurturing tone as opposed to authoritative, if that makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense very much to me, but I definitely want, because I had a couple questions around what does it mean to be a dominant, what does it mean to be a submissive, and so I kind of wanted to play in those terms. I had a question someone gave to me was, can two people be dominant and then quote unquote seen together? That was one of the questions posed to me.
Well, that would probably be most in technical terms, would be called as a switch.
Yes.
Person who is also dominant but yet submissive with the correct partner. So it can happen. I've seen, well, for some reason I have a knack of attracting switches, such as Mrs. Urban, my own submissive, and a couple other friends for some strange reason. But they are dominant with others and submissive with others, depending on the, I guess, the vibe they have with one another.
Yeah, for sure. Makes a lot of sense to me. And to be clear, a switch is somebody who is both submissive and dominant, depending on the environment or the person and kind of what is pulled out. Kind of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so a question that a lot of the questions that came around, how do we bring kink and BDSM into a vanilla person's life? And Kenise is wearing a vanilla-ish t-shirt for everybody.
President of the Vanilla
She is representing the
Club.
vanillas today. And so
Well,
I mean,
well,
probably easily 20 questions about, hey, I don't want to do all that. I don't want to, have a dominant. I don't want to, but I do want to bring some more toys, some more kink. I want to, and a lot of things were around like impact and scenes and sensory stuff. Like, how do I do that? So what would be some ideas, like some direct kinks that could be explored in the vanilla world amongst the regulars? And what are some ways that a woman can also tell her mate, hey, you can do this to me and I may like it?
Or
the
man tell the woman that I think you might like this, let's try.
Right.
What I want to say to that is, when you're talking about introducing kink, you start to teeter on that vanilla-ish line, because you're starting to dive into a different world. That's number one. And so, I mean, while you can safely identify as vanilla if you would like to, but when you start to identify the kinks, the fetishes, BDSM, even if it's in the bedroom, you start to dive into that world a little bit more. And everything starts with communication and a conversation. Sitting down and just really having a conversation, with your partner, and talking about and being open with not only yourself, but being comfortable enough and transparent enough to be comfortable with your mate. These are some conversations that we necessarily don't have in the quote unquote vanilla world, because everyone's so occupied in their headspace about being judged, even with their own partners. I've known people to be in relationships 15, 20 years, and there's certain things that they just don't feel comfortable doing with their partners, experiencing with their partners, telling their partners what's on their minds. And I think it's just really important to first get in the headspace of yourself and jot some things down about what you want to experience. Right. Because, we can give you all of the labels and the names and the kinks and fetishes, but there's a reason why you're attracted to this lifestyle. There's a reason why you're curious. So I usually say, let it be an organic thing and dive into what it is that what's attracted you to the lifestyle. If you've seen handcuffs and blindfolds, and you've seen sensual massages, go get those things. Go get those things. Start to learn what it is that you like about these things. Start researching these things and really start diving into it. There's no real how to introduce it into the bedroom. It's really, are you ready? And if you're ready, you're gonna find a way to implement those things.
So I got a few questions around roles. I had a couple people who went on ahead. I was like, start Googling. Like, make Google your friend. Like, put in one thing and see where one link take you, and then another link and another link, and just let the links flow. And so she came back, one girl came, she had so many questions, but she came back and she was like, what is a little? What is a baby doll? What is it was all of these things. So can we, for a second, let's look at some of the roles that exist. And because I have a feeling a lot of women actually identify with a lot of these roles, and it might help them channel some things that they might want to explore more in the bedroom if they possibly understood kind of some ways in which their own personality might be displayed or come out.
Okay. Sir, do you want to take the role for this one?
Sure thing. Also, men do have that aspect as finding out for roles as for themselves. Be it like a pup in a puppy play type style. My submissive refers to herself as a bunny. I know Mrs. Urban is a fox. I mean, it's all have these little nuances that in a way defines what we are with regards to the lifestyle, if that makes sense. Other than that, I mean, to discover your quote unquote inner animal or inner style and play as far as that, you have to do more exploration, ask questions, sit back and actually reflect on the type of person you are and what you want to do in this role, whatever the case may be, as far as BDSM is concerned. I mean, the wonderful thing, and as Mistress Urban said a couple of weeks ago, um, BDSM is an a la carte type situation. You can pick and choose whatever works for you. If it doesn't work for you, it's not your kink, move on.
Yeah, and so not necessarily even some of the kinks. Right now, I'm looking like a brat. I know I'm a brat. I, I test the limits. I like to see if I'm gonna get in trouble, and then I probably like to just be in trouble. But it was a lot of those words, like helping people understand and helping even women, again, kind of understand ways in which they maneuver. Or I know I love to, I say I like puzzles and coloring books, and well, that goes into kind of my little middle kind of category. Kanissa's making a face, of course.
Because I'm listening. I'm
and
absorbing.
So let's kind of look a little bit at some of those terms, because the pets is another thing. It's kind of hard to really identify. You learn that over time. But can we get into some of the more personality types also that can exist?
Sure, let's do that. So one of the biggest questions, and I'm sure you got this question in your inbox, was, I want to be a submissive, but I don't necessarily know what type of submissive I am.
Oh, yes. I got that 2 times. Yes.
Exactly. So what I usually tell people is, again, it starts with self. Sit down and figure out who you are. And one of the first assignments I typically give submissives who are either interested in vetting me or typically just interested in figuring out who they are and getting a jump start into kink is do a search on submissive types. Figure out what types of submissives are. When you start to read this information, you're going to immediately start to see characteristics that you identify as. And some of those roles look like baby girls. I typically find that baby girls are women and baby boys. Let's be transparent. So baby boys and baby girls are typically individuals who enjoy more of a nurturing style topping or dominant, more of a leadership, but maybe a softer touch, someone who's not as aggressive, more of that nurturing style of dominant. That's usually what the pair looks like. And that's where you get the mommy and daddy play. So you've heard that term. And so now you know what typically a mommy and daddy would be attracted to. It would typically be under the realm of a baby girl or a baby boy. And you have to understand that there's classifications. And so it's really difficult to kind of dive into a lot of the roles. So in the roles of submissive, there's the baby girl. You have the brat. The brat, which we just, touched on, is one who is, daring and challenging and really wants to have their limits pushed to see how dedicated, their top or their dominant will be, and keeping them in line and giving them the discipline and the attention that they need. And those are brats. And when you start to talk about these labels, a lot of these characteristics can be in one submissive. You can have a baby girl that has some bratty features, and it's also a pet, as Sir Matthias mentioned. Again, it's a la carte, so that is a good way to figure out the roles, especially for submissives. There's also submissives who are masochists. Those, again, we talked about being a sadist. Sadists are attracted to masochists because masochists do what? They receive pain. They receive pain and they receive a pleasure from receiving that pain. It just makes sense, and it's a puzzle. So when you start to really dive into the terminology, which is what you really should be doing after you decide, hey, I think I'm interested. You want to figure out what the terminology looks like so you can have a conversation. So when you start having these questions, you can start to learn lingo and really understand what the person is feeding you once you start to ask these questions. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I mean, really, there are so many layers defined in the terms of BDSM. It's almost impossible. Well, it actually is impossible to go over it in one day, let alone one interview. Again, research, research, communicate your feelings with with the partner that you're willing to go into as far as this is concerned, and let the world
So
be your oyster as far as that.
another question I got was, is it normal to switch between roles in the same scene?
What do you mean by scene?
So I'm thinking she means scene as a scene, as what's negotiated between the top and the bottom. And I'm thinking, but this person is vanilla-ish.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So I'm thinking maybe kind of the interaction between her and her mate
Right.
is what I'm thinking.
Yes, I get what you're saying. So when you're first learning, especially as a vanilla couple, I can absolutely see, especially when you're exploring together as a couple, it would be natural for there not to really be any assigned roles. It would be smart not to assign roles at this stage because
Definitely.
you really want to figure out how you identify what you identify as, and you want to really get the experience with your partner. To really figure out where organically the energies fall in place. And so, yeah, it would be natural for in that type of intensity of a scene as a beginner scene, it will be natural for the roles to flip up and down in that type of learning environment. When you start to talk about kinksters who have been in the lifestyle for years, then it's less likely you will see that in an organic scene. There's typically a top and bottom. There's typically, dominant, submissive. Not saying that or the other isn't a switch, but typically that's what you will see.
Yeah.
So, is this role play, solely role play, or is this like the foreplay that's leading to sex?
Good question.
Because when I hear scene, I hear we're acting.
So I'm definitely gonna let them answer, but I want to chime in for a second. So I have well, that's not true. I'm not gonna say never. I don't typically scene anywhere around sex. So we're not in a bedroom. We're not about to like get it in. It's not the prequel. It's not many people, again, like Mistress said, like she educates, and so she's hired to go around. So she might demo. And we have demoed in a room of over 100 people. So there are many times in which it literally is a demonstration. It has absolutely nothing to do with sex, and I think that's a misconception like a myth that I think we should break. You can.
Very much so.
So there is, and I think also I want to say Mistress Urban talked about I am 24/7. So it's not she is always dominant. She is always in leadership. She is always in authority. She is always in it's not a role, but it's a way of being at that point. And so I'll let you guys also jump in, but definitely no, the answer is not to scene, has nothing even though I will orgasm from a scene, it has nothing to do with sex. I'll let you guys jump in.
You, I'm so proud of you.
I know, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, so BDSM and kink is for you what it is for you. For some people, it is sexual, and sexual things happen, but it does not have to be. Again, you get to pick and choose and consent to what it is that you want to experience. I think that's one of the very important things about BDSM and kink, because while you experience it with a partner, you experience it alone because you are really starting to explore more of yourself. In kink, I probably found more of myself than I've found in a very long time because it forces you to learn different skill sets as a grown adult. Traditionally, while we've had college courses and we've learned, basic communication, when you get into kink or you get into BDSM, you start to learn an accelerated amount of communication skills because of the different personalities you're going to be dealing with, especially the different eccentric personalities that you're dealing with, and learning these different types of love languages. I have definitely navigated a lot of my waters through the love languages because that's my communication style, and even because I'm poly. But it really forces you to be a better individual, so collectively you can prepare to be in this type of lifestyle. Now, if you do want to do just the bedroom BDSM, that's absolutely acceptable and absolutely okay. I'm not saying that it's going to take any less work or education or research, but I think identifying where you want to be and how often you want to perform these acts are absolutely important. They're important, and at some point we'll talk about incorporating different BDSM skill sets in your home.
And so another question that I received was how, let's say, and okay, so let's say the woman is involved already, has an idea of her kinks, was in previous relationships, has some ideas of her kinks, and really wants to introduce her mate to doing them with her. What is the best way? And one of her biggest kinks is impact. And of course, there's a lot of dangers in just bringing out spatulas and horse whips and things and starting to just, hit on people. It's not, recommended. But what is a recommended way, you guys think, for a person who already knows, like, hey, I like floggers. I like, paddles. I like hand. I like, you putting your hand on me. How does she help her mate do those things?
I mean, once again, it's all about communication. Like you said before, you just don't reach into a closet, bring out a kettle prod, and go to work on somebody. That's no. Don't do that, people. Talk to your mate. Explain to them that, hey, I have a preference for like spanking. I have a preference for hair pulling, dirty talk, whatever the case may be. I want to explore and share that with you. Are you willing to do A, B, or C, A, B, and C in order to find out what works for you? Because my kinks might differ from my partner's kinks.
Well, let's say the guy has already said yes. Sure, she had the conversation. He's like, okay, baby, whatever you like, I'm willing to do it. How did that couple go about introducing impact? Let's start with that one because that is a common one.
Okay. Again, break out the implements. Test it on the partner who wants to be spanked, or the case may be. As you know for yourself, Lady Harlene, each implement has a different feel. Study may not be exciting to the partner, but they might want something that stings. So again, it's all about exploration and basically trying to find out what works for the partner. Then at that moment, you can go in the closet and grab the strap on and go to work, but let's not talk about that right now.
Would it be, how do you help them learn the limits and learn the idea of the power exchange? I got a few questions around power exchange. And
what do you mean by power exchange?
Guys, would you guys like to talk to about that?
Is that the switch?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead, my dear.
Power exchange is one of the fun things that takes you from kink to BDSM. In kink, you have your tops and bottoms, and there's not a ton of assignment. When you start talking about power exchange and you start talking about, being fully in control, that's a different type of dynamic. So you have the top or the dominant or the switch, who is going to be in control, who's going to be the leader or the dominant in that scene. I'm going to assume the responsibility as a dominant. As a bottom or as a bottom or a submissive or a slave, I would like to relinquish power to my top. I want this person to be responsible while I'm going to be responsible, obviously, and safe for myself, but I want choosing this person to put my safety in their hands, you know, everything that has to do with taking care of basic, you know, human measure, I'm going to trust this person with. And that's when we're talking about scening. And because, you know, certain people are 24/7, you're talking about just really, you know, making sure that that person is safe at all times when you're around them, and making sure, you know, that that relationship is intact if they're long distance as well. So identifying purely relinquishing control and assuming control.
And that it oscillates.
Mm.
And that is at some point the bottom can take back their control by saying stop.
Right. So
if they're not a slave.
Right. If they're not a slave, I think at some point everyone has the opportunity to say no.
Right.
You know, that is what consent is, you know, regardless if they're a slave or not. No is just no. You know, if you're uncomfortable with doing something that is outside of the norm of the negotiated things that you and your dominant or you and your top discuss, then no is clearly no, because you also have to be concerned and accountable for your safety. And I think that that is extremely important for everyone to know that, again, I don't know, care how many times we go over it, you know, BDSM is about consent. Consent, you know, comes first. And that's just kind of what it is.
For sure.
And again, that's another misconception as far as not being saying no. It's fine to say no. It's perfectly. You have the right to say no if something is not vibing correctly with you, or you feel put off about it. You do have that right to say no. And unfortunately, some of our newer or our baby doms, or whatever case you want to call them, are unaware of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I had one person ask me and said, I want to let my mate do more. How did she say it? She was like, but like, what if it gets too much for him? What if he's so excited in it? It kind of, what we ended up talking about was like,
how does she snap him out of it?
Yeah, like how does she?
That's the safe word, ain't it? Pineapples.
Very good. Good, guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we talked about that, like just really knowing, again, whether it's red, green, yellow, having a safe word. But can we talk some about just kind of not from more the submissive or the bottom position, but from the dominance position? I want to talk more about how to help dominance not forget that there is somebody. It's also about somebody's pleasure. So, and not to lose sight of that, like, and to stay grounded, kind of like, where is the center in a way?
Well, it depends on the dominant, actually. I mean, my philosophy with regards to BDSM scenes, once the submissive, bottom, slave, whatever the case may be, once they use their safe word, it's game over. You stop. And as far as that's concerned, my philosophy: who wants to make them use their safe word? I want to keep going.
Right.
So that's how I center myself. I'm aware of my bottom or submissive's limitations. Communication is constant. Are you okay? How are you feeling right now? What type of headspace are you in? Whatever the case may be. So I would suggest that to the person who's interested in being a top or dominant to take that to heart. Find out what their limits are.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. It's like that thing you said, who wants to stop? I think a lot of people think the goal is to make them tap out. Like, I'm just going to make it harder and harder and harder and like make her like scream and jump out the window. When then she quits, like, and then she might not want to do it. Well, she might want to do it again. But still, we're talking kind of extreme, in the vanilla-ish world. You do want to, like, who wants to stop? The joy is, the point of it is to have fun, not to only see how fast you can make her think it's the most painful thing ever. Yeah, it should be pleasure.
You have to really understand that you want to be responsible for a scene in a way where you are focused on what the core value of her pleasure or his pleasure is, and that is you know, receiving pain and it being a pleasurable pain. And it goes back to
Yeah.
petting, it goes back to discussing what your kink needs are and really staying focused with that. That is one of the things that I learned thoroughly from my mentors. Pat on y'all back, because wow, contracts are absolutely necessary, because they help you have the conversation of what the person or the persons want to experience, so that there is a checks and balances. And I think that that is just absolutely necessary. So when I'm doing a scene and I'm introducing certain implements, I will either show the person what I'm doing, or if I'm doing a certain type of implement. So if I'm going to be doing strictly impact, if I start changing to, from, if I'll do floggers, and I'll show them the type of floggers. If I'm going to move to paddles, I'll let them know, hey, are you okay with being paddled, like being paddled right now? Because they might just really be exhausted and really worn down from the flogging, or they might need a break. So you want to, like Servantaya said, you want to make sure you keep that communication, but also remember why you're there. And, as sadists, I also have a conversation with myself. What is it I want to achieve with the scene?
Right.
Have I been feeling like being physical? Because this might be a physical scene where I get to negotiate. Hey, are you comfortable with doing some punching? Are you comfortable with me putting my body weight on you? Just certain things that really come into play when I'm singing.
And again, as sadists, I mean, as we discussed before, ladies, I'm a little over the top when it comes to my sadism. So I want to find out what is acceptable, because I'm the type of person I can go into cat of nine tails, uh, clitoris punching, fire, ice, things like that. And again, what's good for the goose is not necessarily good for the gander.
Right.
The cat
So
o'
again,
nine tails are
communication.
actually really nice.
Did he say clitoris punching?
Yes, I said clitoris punching.
Nigga.
Yeah.
No.
Or spanking, or slapping, whatever the case may be.
Clit flogging.
I did that already.
You will not.
So here we go, and let's do that. I want to take us there for a minute, because someone inboxed me. When I say I was flooded, Lord, I had got a question, and it was personal for me. It was like, Chris, you said there's nothing you would say no to. I was like, well, I did say no to waterboarding. That was where I kind of was like, wait a minute. So we're not talking about it today.
I didn't say a word.
But I really want to challenge the ideas, whether you're vanilla-ish, or even if you're in the realm of kink, to push a boundary, to question what your no is and really what your yes is. Because if you have not experienced what could sound like just torture, might not be. You didn't know you liked anal until you did it, and you thought and heard a million stories about how painful it was, and then you tried. Or you didn't know you liked oral sex until you did it. Like, you didn't know you liked, deep tissue massage over a sweetest massage until you got one. You don't know these actual things until you at least.
Let me interject. I do need to interject. There is something that has been on my mind for a very long time, and I think this is the perfect place to say it.
Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go, mistress.
Everybody got to do that. Now look, there are men, I guess some women, but particularly men, I'm getting on y'all this time, spanking. Every man seems to be interested. It's like this fetish now that every man wants to, spank an ass. And I get it. I got an ass fetish. I like that. But listen, in the midst of sex, if you feel like you want to be a professional spanker, step back for a second. This is what I need you to do. Listen to this information. Take your bottom, your woman, your submissive, Either bend them over your knee, over a desk, a table, a chair, a couch safely, and have spanking sessions. Start out slowly and slowly intensify those spanking sessions, okay? Because there's nothing worse than having a sexual encounter with someone who tries to spank you, and it is the worst thing. It is a complete turn off. So if you want to learn how to spank guys, because every man feels like they can spank, they can't, okay?
No.
Take the time to remove yourself from the bedroom to really learn what that can do for your partner, because you can learn to make your partner orgasm spanking them inside the bedroom, outside the bedroom, during sex, and no sex is even needed. But learn what it is that you're doing, because that could be the difference between that phone call you ain't getting back.
And
to
and I
piggyback
think
off
that
of
goes.
Mistress,
Go ahead. I think that goes into like that the idea of boundaries, like explore even
Clit punching is a boundary.
but if you started even something outside the bedroom, and like Mistress said, you start something lightly, and kind of Mistress does it's kind of like, it's almost like she grabs your vagina, and it's a pull. I don't know, I'm not always quite conscious sometimes, but it's like this pull thing. It's really nice. I don't really know how to describe it. I don't really know what's happening half of the time, but I do know there are things that in my conscious state, I'm like, what the hell? What? No, I don't like my pants too tight around my vagina, let alone, but you'll be amazed that in certain spaces, things have a very different feeling. And what you think sounds bad, it really isn't.
I get that when you feel safe and comfortable with somebody, you're willing to explore things a little bit more. I get that. And I've heard both of you say that that's something that's very important, is providing a sense of security by checking in on your person. But as a vanilla-ish person, and I'm also hearing that there's a whole totally different level from BDSM to just trying out some stuff. Those are two completely different categories. So if I'm just trying out some stuff, I don't want you asking me questions, stopping every 5 seconds to ask me a question. Cause we in this groove here, and if you stopping, you okay, nigga? Yes, keep going. So where is that balance? Cause I like, don't stop. Hello, keep going. Like until I let you know, like, okay, I'm uncomfortable. Wait, don't do that. That one hurt. So how do you go from that so that it's not a constant stop while we trying to get this thing going? And also, I'm coming from the mentality of, if we're doing kink, it's during sex. And I hear you guys saying that not all the time is that the same thing. For me, it's one and the same. President of the club, it's one and the same.
So I would say your partner already, let's just go with vanilla sex. Just to go with regular sex. Your partner, in my mind, knows kind of, oh, she didn't like that. She not moaning. She's not responding to my body. She drying up. It's kind of already a vibe and a thing that already happens in regular sex. Fair? Okay. I don't think it's any different in if we gonna go on the vanilla side of introducing kink. It won't be, you're gonna introduce it, I'm thinking, and you're still gonna look for the same, okay, she's liking this, I can keep going. Like, and fairly what women do, let's go back again real quick. If you switch up the stroke, you might go, baby, go back. You'll say it, right? And so same thing, I think, with kink. You bring it in and it's introduced. You can, at the same time, before he even go, do you like it? You, oh, baby, harder, more, slower, over here. It's the same. I feel like it would be the exact same introduction.
Exactly.
I mean, in situations like that, you already know your partner. You read their emotions, read their body. And if you're that type of person, you can always tell them to shut the fuck up and just fuck me. But hey.
If it's not working and all else fails, just go
like
back. Stop it. Stop it. So can we now actually go into, because fairly I know we talked about research, but
Well, before we go into that, I have a question. Sir, I heard you say that you've been doing this for 15 years, correct?
Correct.
Mistress, how long have you been doing this?
9 years.
What was your start?
What was my start? You know what? My start into kink, realistically, I had to sit down and think about this year, was the fact that I was in a 13-year relationship. And Sir Matthias was privy to all of that. But I was in a relationship that, whereas my wife basically served me hand and foot. She was very submissive, very loyal, very outgoing, and we were basically just two peas in a pod, and learning how to be responsible for her care, and identifying her skill sets and letting her be her little self, because when I got with her, she wasn't a little, or she didn't know how to show her little tendencies. So being able to bring those things out of her. And when we got into kink, us both moving into kink, and now she's a rope bunny, for God's sakes. She was struggling with claustrophobia, and now she is absolutely fantastic. So that was kind of the jump start. And I think at some point, I after being a mentor, after mentoring for 2 years, I just decided that this is the realm that I'm most identified with.
As for my sins, I first discovered BDSM. I was actually living abroad in England working for a company. Um, and some of my workmates were like, hey, do you want to go to a club? I'm thinking it's just going to be your basic discotheque or whatever the case may be. It wasn't. But I was introduced to the lifestyle, met some wonderful people there I still talk to. A couple of them became my mentors, and lo and behold, I never looked back. Didn't have any regrets whatsoever. When I came back to the States, I found a wonderful submissive switch who had actually at the time more experience, more knowledge than I had, and she taught me a lot of things as well. And I pretty much put that in my repertoire and carried on. So, yeah.
So I wanted to do kinks, but I actually have a question that was brought to me probably many moons ago, which was about people who have actually separate lives, people who have will be in a relationship, and also engage in BDSM and have a dominant or a submissive per se, because many times it could be a woman is with a man and he has submissives or pets or slaves. But can we talk some about how that works? Because that actually exists for both of you. You both are poly. And so can we talk a little bit about how that works?
Okay, well, I am part of a open V, 3 people, two heterosexual males and 1 bisexual female. Female happens to be my submissive. Now, there are certain things I know because of recent of past injuries and things of that nature that I will not be able to do on Dahlia. However, I do have bottoms that I do work with that can feed my inner sadist demon, so I can actually associate myself with them as far as the BDSM play is concerned, but still, I'm with Dahlia, if that makes sense.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
No?
So the men never intersect. So she has both a husband. Are they married?
They are married.
They are married. So
I
his
introduced them to each
submissive
other. I was his best man.
has a husband, and she So it's 3 of them. She basically has 2 men. Does that help you?
Okay.
Okay. However, they are in a 24-hour dynamic, if I'm not mistaken, right, sir?
Correct.
Okay. And he has bottoms, which means when he sings with other people just for singing.
Okay.
But she is in a relationship with 2 men. He is also technically in a relationship with her, but and him. So they communicate like, hey, I don't know how to say it, but there is an active, ongoing, respectful communication.
So you're their boyfriend. In the
Not
vanilla-ish
his boyfriend.
language.
It's what's called a metamor, means I consider him my brother. I mean, I've known the man for about 25 years now. I've known both of them for 25 years. Again, like I said before, I introduced them to each other. I was his best man. I'm godfather of their children. So I'm pretty much entwined into that as far as that's concerned. But I consider him a metamor, like I consider Mrs. Urban a metamor as well. We love each other, but we're not like sexually together. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's basically it as far as that.
And so how do you, I guess I'm thinking in the beginning, how do you begin to introduce? Because again, let's say a man has a woman and before he met her, he was already into kink, and he gets a vanilla-ish woman. He meets a Kanice and goes, Kanice is great. She's wonderful and awesome, and I want her and I want to keep her. However, he needs to help her understand, but she's vanilla-ish. And so he's like, okay, well, I need to basically get some bottoms. I have to, like you said, I have to get that my inner sadist has to be fulfilled. I got to go do something. How does he help her understand that? How do some of those conversations begin to exist in couples where one person definitely has a more BDSM dynamic to them and the other one is vanilla-ish?
Okay. Again, communication is key. Yeah. I'll say that to the day I die. Have a sit down with each other. Let the person know, let your partner know that I love you, I want you in my world, whatever the case may be. By the same token, I do have these urges that need to be fulfilled. If she understands that, fine and dandy. Go with peace, my son, or the case may be. But it all starts with the communication aspect.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so now I do. People is like, Chris, what are my kinks? I'm like, I don't know what the hell your kinks are, girl. Like, what you like? She like, I don't know. What you think I might like? I'm like, girl, I don't know what the hell you like.
I always, when I was doing the classes and everything like that, I always start off with a show of hands. Who likes to get spanked? Who likes to get hair pulled? Who likes to talk dirty? Who likes biting, scratching, rough play? Those are kinks. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're 8 or 80, everyone has a kink.
Yeah. Yeah. And you definitely take that, those basics, and you start to expound on them. So who likes spankings? Typically, the person who likes spankings are going to enjoy impact play. Typically, the person who enjoys being called a dirty, slutty whore, that person is probably going to end up liking degradation and possibly humiliation. The person who, likes to be, have their hair pulled. The person who likes breath play, they might end up, really, or being choked, might end up liking breath play. So there's,
breath.
Those are key indicators to really start out to see what things that you might be interested in. Those are some very basic things that you can, that people just really enjoy doing. So I think
Kanice stopped you on breath play.
Yeah, Kanice.
Because I didn't know if you were saying breath or breast.
Breath.
What the hell is breath play?
I mean,
what?
Breast play too, but she's talking about breath play. So.
Well, it's what it is. Exactly what we just said.
Exactly.
So are you depriving my oxygen?
Absolutely.
Oh, bless
There
Jesus.
you go.
Okay. Okay.
Light and consensual asphyxiation.
Again,
good one.
If you like being choked, it's nothing wrong consensually testing that boundary itty bitty bit. You just moving up the line itty bitty bit more and more. So whatever, like I've said to everybody, like, I don't know, Chris, what am I? I'm like, nigga, I don't know what your kinks are. Like, I ain't there.
Baby steps. Baby steps.
Baby steps. So whatever you already like. So again, I agree. If you like, spankings, I didn't think of that. I do like the idea of taking the spanking outside the bedroom and like a real life over the knee spanking. That is a really good idea. Because then you learn different. Now we can now bring in a real paddle over the knee, and now we can bring. We're moving.
I pledged.
Then you break out the vampire gloves. Then you break out.
Fuck you and your paddle.
See, why you got scared? Why you got scared of people?
But I think even sensory. Mistress loves what are them little clip things.
Oh, the clothespins.
Mistress likes clothespins. They will get used at some point. She is pinning you. And so
I'm trying to do one this weekend, girl.
You still got the metal ones, Mrs. Urban?
Do I have the which one?
The metal ones? The metal clips?
I don't have any metal. I don't have any more. I don't have many clips.
See, you're giving her ideas. Don't give her any. You're gonna give her new ideas.
Well, with those, you can actually put them in the freezer or warm them up on the fire, things like that. So, sorry, folks. This happens to us all the time. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Bring it. You gotta bring it back.
But no, but see, this is good. So this is how you start simple, because it could be things like you like being pinched, small things like again, I really want to be clear. There are small levels of sensory, like pinching or scratching, biting, pulling. You're already. So we're at a level. Next one might be something like a clothespin, because they're really not that bad until she starts hitting them, and then it gets a little different. But we're still cool and great and fun. But now it's a little extra pinch, or it's you're just varying and going up to where now you got like a metal clothespin that's been frozen first. That could be interesting. I don't know.
Clearly.
Why not try it?
Right. Try a bunch of different things. I mean, one of the places that you can go is your local gigantic hardware store. I need not say any names, but you can go to hardware stores. You can go to whatever big box store you want to go to, and go there in the middle
We
of
can't
the
just
night,
go to a regular sex toy store?
No, listen. Take a date night to your local big box store and just go down the kitchenwares aisle, the hardware aisle, and look at some of the things that you could possibly get. I have a collection of wooden spoons and spatulas that are absolutely amazing for impact play and for sensory play. The old school back scratchers. Can you imagine the sting that some people can get, like on their ass or the back of their thighs? There are certain things that you can use that are found locally that you don't even have to go to an adult toy store to get.
Right. And they're a lot less expensive than going to your exotic store.
Yeah,
exactly.
Paying exotic price for something.
Right, but that's with all your years of experience and your mind is already there. So for somebody that's like me, that's like, what you think you finna do with a spatula, nigga? Like, you finna go make some pancakes? Like, what's happening here? Like, why you got my kitchen utensils in the bedroom? Like, that's nasty. That's
why you buy separate utensils.
Yep, and blindfolds. Blindfolds come in and keep all of your kink toys in your bedroom. Kink toys,
but
bedroom.
You gotta get me there first. I'm not there because my mind is like, that's a kitchen utensil. Put that shit back in my kitchen.
So then blindfold you. So this is where I think that trust comes in, is where if you're willing to, if you and your mate had a conversation, you sat down and go, something, it's time to like really take this up a notch. Right. It's a level of trust in him going, okay, let's try it. First, it's an openness. It has to be an initial willingness to explore beyond your comfort. So yes, it's gonna, if you don't have that, then you're right. Then it's gonna be like, no, why you got the spatula? You're closed. So it has to be a trust and an openness. And then next is blindfold you and let him see whatever he pulled out.
Exactly. I mean, or you can find a kink person or a person who's already kink adjacent, someone who's already kinky that everybody has this kinky weird ass friend someplace. You find your
They
kinky
be
friend
texting me.
and you have the conversation. You find a
Exactly.
mentor, you find a coach. Hell, I'm available. You can put my information on your website. But
Same
and
here.
to look, right, see, there you go. And to even take it a step further, we can do this virtually, just like we're doing this here. It can all be done virtually or face to face. And if you have the issue with getting over that hump, at some point I have to ask if you're really ready. Because when you're ready for something, you find a way to do it. You're so eager to do it that you find a way. And I think it's important. And as a couple, I think it's important to identify with each other and not necessarily always have outside friends in these conversations all the time. I think bringing it back to the person that you're going to be trusting, learning how to properly communicate with and be transparent with, I think is absolutely necessary. So making sure you're bringing it back to the core of the relationship so you guys can be intertwined and figure out who you are and what you like.
Yeah, and I think even small things like saying, "Hey, I want you to be in charge for the next 2 hours," and kind of whatever you say goes, and really kind of seeing like where your limits are, like how much power can you relinquish, how much do you trust, like those are good ways also to kind of see where are you guys in this thing of what will I allow my mate to do.
Exactly.
What am I willing to explore? If I can't even trust him for 2 hours and we got our clothes on, it is vulnerable to be naked. And so if I'm not, we got on our clothes and we out in Walmart, I don't trust you in what you might say if I give you to be in charge. I don't know, you might not be ready for something else with a blindfold and he went in the kitchen and got something like that. You might not be there. So
Right.
it is important
to you're not trusting
communicate.
This person, then this shouldn't even be a conversation, honestly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's how you could probably also, it circles back for sure to communication. I think, this kind of goes into, I was thinking, well, when is it all contraindicated? At what points is the answer stop, do not start, and the answer is no? Trust. If there is legitimately zero trust, and you can test trust in the smallest ways, probably the first indicator. And if you're not even willing to share what you like, this is contraindicate. Like, this is probably not a good idea if you can't openly say, hey, I would like you to choke me. I would like you to pull my hair and call me a dirty slut. I would like whatever you might. If you can't even say something that simple, you probably shouldn't go much further.
Right. You probably aren't ready.
You should stay vanilla. Just in your
You should go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. If you have a sexual trauma history.
That's a huge thing too. Like
That's
a lot of people,
too.
a lot of people feel like, I'm kinky because, I like anal and I like to be choked and I like rough sex. And I'm like, well, it's kind of vanilla-ish right now.
Right.
So,
That's the levels.
And that's okay, but that might be your level of kink. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because it's okay to just have kinky sex. If you just like, having kinky sex, then that's what it is. But do not, at any circumstance, I better not see you ever in a group with 5,000 people saying that I'm a sadistic daddy dominant with 15 years of experience when all you know how to do is have rough sex. Be very mindful.
Those of us who've been in the lifestyle for quite some time our bullshit detectors are on 10. We can spell that shit out.
Exactly.
Also, I was actually laughing at myself for a second because I was looking around the house. I was looking around the area I'm in. And Kenise, I just found a couple of implements you can use right off the bat. I mean, you got the hairbrush for spanking.
Yes.
And then you got a pair of chopsticks you can actually use for nipple torture.
Yeah.
But we won't go there. So, I mean, it's whatever your deviant little mind desires.
Here we go. They have regular nipple clamps, Kenise. So if we could, or pinching, like even like, or a rough kiss on the nipple, like when we can start even smaller. We can go down to kissing the breast and kind of a more aggressive
nipple
sucking on the
type
nipples.
deal, right?
from
I mean, I
there,
even
you can
spanked
move
somebody
maybe
with a book.
to
I spanked somebody in the
a
second.
pinch of the nipples, maybe something simple like that. From the pinch of the nipples, maybe to an actual nipple clamp.
Just don't get bopped in the head.
Okay. Kenise, do you have any for the vanilla team? Are there?
I really think that there's just different levels to it. Some of us, you know, we claim to be freaks or whatnot, so we're willing to do different things. And that's where you have to have that open and honest conversation with the person. Like, I'm always, if we're dating, I want to know what your sexual history is. What is it that you're into? Because if you're into some stuff that I don't want to be bothered with, then I gotta go. Or if you're not into some stuff that I want to experience, then I'm not going to stick around. So I always have that conversation so that I can know if I can handle what it is that you have to offer, or can you meet my needs. It's vanilla, but it's definitely not that lifestyle stuff. As Mistress said, she's kink 24/7. For me, this is a sexual thing. So if we doing something kinky, I'm expecting your penis to be out soon. So that's I think that's like the bottom line of it. There's a difference between a lifestyle and, like Mistress said, just engaging in different sort of sexual acts. And I'm the sexual act.
And I think even in the sexual acts, there are levels even in there.
Yeah.
Always kind of from the very first podcast, that a la carte, after we've communicated, we can kind of pull out so many different flavors of what we like. We want to role play. We just took role play in a way, so role play can be cops and robbers. It can also be, you know, it could also, what popped in my head was probably, I don't want to say out loud, but kind of like like rape scenes.
That's deep.
I was trying to think of some like lesser extreme. I'm like,
deep.
That's
deep.
I really couldn't even think of anything. But there are simple cops.
The dog on the leash thing. Where you?
That's a slave.
Oh, okay.
But it could be a pet. Yeah, I was out. Again, it still is a role play. So it's so many forms of, like, again, it's levels to all of it. Have fun. I think something that I really think I said, probably because I tried to respond to every message, was have fun. Like, push the boundary.
And don't be so caught up in your head about what this person may think of you. If this is what you want to experience, and you're not going to get it from this person, and this ain't the person that you need to be with, go find somebody that's willing to give you what it is that you want to experience.
And also, even with that, don't think it has to be, well, I got to do it the BDSM way, like whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. Like, legitimately, the goal is to enjoy yourself and find where you are and have fun. Anything you guys want to add?
I constantly tell people, do you for you. You don't have to do it the way myself or Mr. Urban does it. Do what works for you. What makes you happy, what makes it fun for you. That's the important part. Don't try to one up, don't try to keep up with the Joneses and this. No, do you for you.
Mistress, can you tell people one more time how to get hold of you?
Well, I can absolutely be found on my website, so Mistress Urban Kinkster, or urbankinkster.com. You can find me there. On Instagram, you can find me as Urban Kinkster. And I can also be found on Twitter as Kinkster Urban. So look me up and just go ahead and follow. I'm around, and I'll be always reachable through this platform as well, because they're absolutely awesome. But find me here, and I'm also on Facebook as Urban Kinkster as well.
Okay, and if you need us, if you need therapy, if you want to talk about how to bring you and your husband to a place of better communication, to engage in some of these sexual concerns, or if it's sexual dysfunction, even, we did not go into that in this topic, but those are real concerns as well. Or if you just need support, you can get us at mindsempowered.org. We are also on Facebook as Minds Empowered. counseling. My Facebook page is Harleen Francis. This is my little alter ego, Harley Quinn. But so you can find me there. And we thank you guys for tuning in and for coming on the show. We hope you guys like learned a lot and are ready to like go explore tonight. Tonight, get it in.
Sir, do you want to be found any place?
I'm right
You
here.
wanna be found,
No. I'm on Facebook, Matthias Black. Also, I'm relaunching the educational blog. I'll put that in my links at a time. We're probably going to be launching in late December as far as that. But other than that, I'm around. I'm always here. Lurking,
Thank
stalking,
you guys for joining
evil.
us. I love you both. I'll talk to you both really soon.
Talk to you
All right, my
soon.
dear. Take care, Harlan.
Good night, guys.
Good night,
Good night.
guys.